Frontline with Kortney Kenny, and I'm Tom Parisi, and today we got a great set of guests. It's another episode of your favorite podcast, yes, the Frontline podcast. Hey, I'm Tom Parisi, Kortney Kenny alongside as always, and back for his umpteenth tour of duty, it's Ty Nelson. They call him Kid Nelly. Ty, welcome back to the podcast. We're happy to have you on this time around again. And not that we're running out of things to talk to you about, but hey, I mean, we got to talk about some draft ranking. Let's just jump right into it this time around. You're up, you're down. To us, you're always up. But is it stressful to keep your eye on that all the time, or do you even care?
To be honest, I really try not to look at it, and I just really try to focus in on playing the game, because I know if I'm worried about that stuff, I think it'll hinder my performance. And I think I did it in the OHL draft as well. It's just where I'm going to play hockey, I'm going to have fun, I'm going to do the best of my ability, and then I know hopefully my play will reflect on that draft stock.
What have you had any like conversations with scouts and stuff that have come to you and said, "Hey, we as scouts like you, but maybe we need this to see you improve in this area before we seriously consider something?" Or what have the conversations been like, if you have had any at all?
Yeah, I've talked to a few teams, gotten some questionnaires and stuff like that, and then yeah, it's always nice. I mean, they're great. They're great people. They're very honest and straightforward, which is amazing, because at the end of all the calls, I like to ask for some feedback and stuff like that. And they're always telling me something, like they'll tell me something that I can improve on. And then I really appreciate like the advice, because that's what they're seeing that can make me better and hopefully help me in at the next level if I was get an opportunity to play in the next level. And I think that it's amazing, because they're being open and honest and not trying to hinder that, like saying what you need to work on and stuff like that.
Ty, there aren't too many. Go ahead, Kortney. Go ahead.
Sorry, Tom. I was just gonna say, but for two guys like Tom and I, who are absolutely awful at hockey, where floor hockey was our expertise, and even then we weren't great at that. What are some of the things that these guys are telling you to work on, though? Because to us, your skill talent is off the roof, or you're through the roof. What are some of the things that they say that you might need to work on?
Well, thank you. I appreciate the kind words, but I mean, just like little things like that. I mean, one of the guys just said like how working on some stick positioning instead of trying to outmuscle a guy like I would do at the beginning, trying to do at the beginning of the year. Just take his stick away in his like triangle there and take it away so he can't tip the puck. And they're saying those little things like that is something that you can always do to help make yourself become a better player.
There aren't too many kids who would go out and say, "What can I do better?" How brave are you for that? I mean, is it hard to ask for a little extra constructive criticism?
Honestly, no. Like, I think it's a huge part of my game, and I really look for that, because I'm always going to the coaches and seeing what I can do better. And they're great with it, right? They're always giving me feedback, telling me what I can work on and stuff like that. So honestly, I think getting that constructive criticism is a big part of my game and how I've improved a little bit over this year.
One thing coming into the year, I remember kind of trying to get a feel out for, well, obviously we had heard and spoken to you for a whole year before you got on the ice in North Bay. One thing that I said is this, I remember hearing, is this kid's skill talent is off the charts, like we had mentioned. And, his offensive play isn't fantastic, but he might need some work in the defensive zone. Again, somebody who can't play hockey, your defensive zone play looks amazing out there. Is that something that you really honed in on yourself this year that said, okay, I need to work on this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the beginning of the year, me and Bill Holder, Scott Ray, and Ryan O'Houlihan, we were dialed in on the defensive zone, and that's something I've been working on and just trying to get constantly better at all year. And I think I've done a pretty good job of improving, but like I said, there's always room to keep improving.
Even though Billy played in a different era of the NHL, how is that translating to when he coaches you? How does that help you guys?
I mean, Billy's like really updated with the game of hockey, and he understands now how different it was from back then. And I think he teaches us so many things that he did back then that are so useful now in today's game that maybe some other kids don't know. And I mean, I'm super grateful for everything that he's taught me. And like you said, he has that experience of playing at the pro level. So he brings that in, and he's trying to educate us on what it takes and how you got to do things at the pro level.
One thing I thought was really interesting on Sunday going to the game in Sudbury and getting to kind of get up close with the bench a little bit compared to where I usually have to stand at the Gardens. He's very engaged on the bench, Billy. Like he's very vocal too. And I was like, wow, this is fun to watch from a different perspective.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like he's probably one of the coaches that yell the most. I mean, on the penalty kill, he gets right into it because he coordinates it. So on loose pucks and stuff like that, he's yeah, he's over the bench, he's screaming, trying to get us to hear him.
Fair enough. On that kind of topic, we had when we talked to Ryan Ulahan, he mentioned when there was no fans in the building, how it was easier to kind of make changes during the play because you could really hear them. As a player, how different is it with no fans and fans in the building like that?
For me personally, it was a little bit of a difference. I mean, I didn't really notice it that much as we're playing, but obviously after you score like a huge goal and something like that, like you're wanting to hear all the fans scream or even get boos at away ranks, like that makes it right. But I mean, it was a little difficult when you didn't hear that type of stuff. But I mean, it kind of made it a lot easier playing because like for my teammates that yell for pucks but aren't really that loud, like it made it easier to hear them and it made the game a little bit easier.
I think it definitely helped having fans in attendance for that big comeback against Sudbury because the loud cheers and everything with each goal was something fun to watch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the atmosphere itself brings a whole different type of energy, and it rolls to the bench as well. And you can see as soon as we scored that first goal, the crowd got into it. Then we all started rolling. It just happened one after another.
One thing before we get to the other big thing that we wanted to talk to you about, one thing that's kind of become a bit of a running joke on the podcast since we had him on, Macker told us that Dom's a bit of the the tough, or not the toughest, but the most tough guy to deal with in the locker room. As one of his pals and stuff, what's your opinion on that?
You know what? I give him credit though, because he's only doing it to help. He's only doing it to help himself and his performance, right? I mean, I don't blame him. Like if I was a goalie and I'm getting pucks ripped at me 89 miles an hour, I'd want to make sure everything's right as well. So I don't blame him, but sometimes we do throw in some jokes here and there at him just for all the time he's calling Macker.
So in your opinion, let's cause some controversy here. Let's get Ty Nelson in trouble with his teammates. Who's in your opinion, who's the most high maintenance guy in the room?
Well, I mean, you got Dahmer. Yeah, he loves having his stuff right. I'll give it to him.
That's funny.
Well, are you high maintenance at all?
I would say, yeah. I mean, I've went through quite a few sticks this year, so I think you could count that as high maintenance as well. But yeah, I'm like Dom. I like to have my gear right and everything right, so I can perform at my best.
Well, on the bright side, at least Dom already knew that he was considered high maintenance, so it's not like a shock that he's hearing you say that.
Yeah, no, that seems to be the running joke in the locker room.
Oh, that's great. So, one other thing, the big thing that we really wanted to talk to you about, though, and obviously you've been in the spotlight a little bit recently, is the top prospects game. What's your thoughts on being named to that? That's quite the honor, really.
Absolutely, it's quite the honor, and I mean, I think there was a few of our guys on our team that probably could have made that game as well. But I mean, I'm super grateful, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Have you talked to Brandon Coe went to it, the last one? Have you picked Cozy's brain at all about what it's like going to that?
A little bit here and there. I mean, he's just telling me that big thing that he kind of remembered was just the atmosphere of the whole thing and meeting the new guys and stuff like that as well.
It's going to be in a barn that you haven't been in the O as well, too, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I hear the stories about the Odd and how it's one of the best rinks in the OHL. And I was quite lucky actually. I played an provincial ball hockey tournament in the Odd.
Wow.
So I've kind of had a little bit of experience there, but not on ice.
It's the most random thing I've heard all day.
Yeah, I mean, when we were younger, I was in a minor ball hockey league, and then we played, and then we had quite the good team. So we went to provincials, and it just happened to be in Kitchener in the Odd.
Do you think like ball hockey actually helps at all with handling a puck?
I think so. I mean, the ball, like running on the floor and trying to stick handle and stuff, it's a little difficult. And I mean, it's definitely great for the cardio for sure, running up and down.
I remember playing ball hockey and again, atrocious at it like I was at ice hockey, but my big thing was I found the ball would always get stuck. You'd be trying to go and the ball would get stuck or something. You'd run right by it and brutal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's happened a few times. I mean,
Absolutely.
then you go and you step too hard, you jerk the knee the wrong way. It's oh man, now I got to run all the way back.
So that's one question that I don't think we've ever asked, but or maybe we haven't. It was a long time ago. But in ball hockey and growing up in hockey, were you always defense or were you forward at some point?
Actually, at the beginning of my minor hockey career, like I'm talking like type of hockey there, I played forward. I was a right winger. And then I made a switch in teams and I went over to the Duffield Devils. And my coach, that's when my coach Flavio Zanetti, he was the one that's like, I think you should play defense. So I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know. I'm maybe 8 or 9 at this point. Like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm just happy to be playing. And he put me on defense and he saw that I excelled at the position and kept me there. And I mean, I'm super grateful for him noticing that and putting me on defense.
Does he at least take credit for the monster that Ty Nelson has become?
I don't know. He doesn't take credit, but he's definitely a huge part of definitely creating it.
I not that it was the same level at all, but I played obviously when in my house league days, I played defense for 1 year, and that was my greatest offensive output was from the back end. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be surprised in how you can jump in here and there and actually create offense. And when people just hear of defense, they think of stopping guys, but there's actually a lot of opportunities to be on the offensive side of the puck as well.
Yeah.
See, always seen the bright side of things. Love it.
Yeah, you know, I remember from that season I had OHL scouts circling around me too.
They're just probably walking around you in the hall. So, excuse me, sir.
Yeah,
Just walking around you.
yeah. If they were coming out and seeing 10-year-old kids, I guess it's never too early. But I know we had you on last time, and now that more of the season's kind of gone on, and the last time we got to talk to you, it was just you were just kind of dipped your toes in the water of the OHL. But now that the season's gone on, what's the OHL been like for Ty Nelson?
It's been amazing. I mean, you definitely learn a lot, and even just 3/4 of a season, I guess you'd call it. And I'm just always trying to learn, keep getting better. And you can see now definitely like there's a big difference from the beginning of the year, and then even from that Christmas area time. It's now teams are really fighting to try and make playoffs, and you got a target on your back every day, and especially being one of the better teams in the league, you got a target on your back every night. You got to go in ready to play. And that's something I found in the you can't count to beat anyone, right? Like you got to come into play and work 110% every night.
In that 3/4 of a season, what has surprised you the most, from people to buildings to did not know that or didn't see that coming moment?
Probably on how like ruthless some fans are. I mean, I've heard,
Yeah.
I knew they could get into your ear and start chirping you and stuff, but I mean, I don't know. There's been some really times where I'm like looking at it and I'm like, wow, did that really just happen? Like sometimes some of the things they do is a little absurd, and I'll just say that.
I remember when you were on last, you were talking about the fans in Peterborough saying that they could buy your hair in a grocery store. Is that
Yeah.
sorry, as my background gets changed to Joe Biden for whatever reason. I don't know what's going on there.
Kortney making a political statement in behind.
Yeah, apparently. Sorry. My parents seem to the problem is that the TV, they'll connect to it with their phone, and then so I guess they're watching something to do with Joe Biden or something. But back to the topic, that is your hair and buying it in a grocery store. That is, have you heard any other chirps that have kind of topped that?
No. I mean, I don't think I mentioned the one like when we were in Peterborough there as well. He said my hair looked like a Pez dispenser. And I think the boys got a kick out of that because it gets thrown around a little bit. But I mean, there hasn't been really like many chirps. I mean, you'll hear like the odd one, but there's just some of the things that the fans do that are a little nuts as well.
Like
Yeah. What's a good example?
Okay, well, one example, we're in Niagara. It's a tight game at this point, and they take a penalty, so we're on the power play, and I skated in, and a guy slashes my stick right out of my hands, right? Breaks in half. So the fans are all going nuts because they called the penalty. And I'm skating on the bench laughing because my stick's in half and they're complaining about a penalty. So we go on the 5-on-3 and we score. So we're all in the huddle. And then all I see is a beer can just get chucked from the stands and almost hit me and Cozy. And everyone in the huddle, because me and Cozy were the only ones in the huddle at this point. And then Russ comes skating in and everybody comes skating in. And then there's just beer cans getting tossed at us. And I was like, wow, okay. Like, I guess fans are like really this ruthless.
I didn't realize this is the 2016 wildcard game at the Rogers Center all over again.
I feel like there's a beer cozy joke in there somewhere. You guys make it, but
no, there was no joke comparison to that. It was just me and him were in the huddle first.
It just worked out perfectly, apparently, Tom.
Obviously.
Yeah, that was one of the wild things when in Sudbury again, because that's like the only experience as being a fan this year that I've had so far. But I'm sitting there, and anytime that something didn't go or there was no call for Sudbury or something, there's this woman that was about 2 rows up from me being like, "That's a penalty," or "That's this," or "That's that." I'm like, "Oh my god, okay."
Yeah, especially Sudbury, they're pretty loud too, so they get into it. And I mean, yeah, there's some fans that you can hear just individually one person that doesn't like a call.
That's my favorite part. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when it's against your team, like for example, for Sudbury, like we'll get a good giggle out of it if they're yelling at the ref or something like that.
No doubt.
Kortney, remember this game in Sudbury you and I went to, and there was a dad who brought like 8 kids to a hockey game?
Yep.
And he started swearing worse than a pirate who hacked off his thumb. And the kids just like,
whatever.
Yeah, this is our dad, or whatever's going on.
So one thing I also noticed in Sudbury that's really funny to me now, because this podcast has kind of become into a rip into Sudbury joke or podcast. But the wolf has red glowing eyes now. What is up with that? Like,
that just sounds awful.
It is awful.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I mean, thankfully, last time we were in Sudbury, that thing didn't come out too many times. So, yeah. I mean, I didn't really pay much attention to seeing that. So, I honestly couldn't tell you.
My buddy I was with, he had never been to the rink, so the wolf was like the big to do, right? He wanted to see the wolf, and it comes out, and I'm like, oh my god, it has red glowing eyes now. This is a whole level of cringe I didn't know was possible. So, yeah, that's and then the same woman that was 2 rows up, she in the intermission she wanted to get so I'm wearing my Barclay Goodrow jersey, and she wanted to get my attention. She kept calling me Mr. Goodrow. So
obviously you're not wearing your own name on the back.
Yeah, I'm not that guy.
So. Well, hey, I mean, that's a good guy to be compared to, that's for sure.
Yeah, I wish. So then that kind of also adds to the question, now that you've been in the league long enough now and played in a lot more barns and stuff, obviously, like I know we talked about Peterborough and stuff, but is there a certain barn that takes the cake as that entire road trip you're just like, man, I don't want to play there?
Peterborough's pretty brutal. I'll admit it, that's for sure. That one. I don't like playing in Ottawa's barn either. I don't know. It's just something about, there's a big wall that comes down and it like doesn't make it look like a full bowl arena. And then their glass is just the hardest glass I've ever played against in my life. So when you're getting hammered into that thing, it hurts for sure.
I was going to ask, is it the actual rink or is it because of that brutal call the one time you guys were there?
Little of both. I got to say, little of both.
At least you guys went in there and got some revenge the last time you were there, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Well, Ty, we're really excited that you're going to the Top Prospects game. Thank you so much again for joining us on the podcast. It's always a pleasure to talk to the one and only kid, Nelly.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
So we thank Ty Nelson for his, I don't know, 4th or 5th tour of duty, I think, something like that, on the Frontline podcast. I'm Tom Parisi alongside Kortney Kenny as always. And I don't want to say we jinxed it, Kortney, but I think we jinxed it.
Yeah, we definitely did. We definitely did. And it's funny because Derek Linneman, who has been on the podcast and is one of our ever faithful listeners, he messaged me after the Thursday game and he was like, gee, I wonder if that had anything to do with two guys on a podcast talking about a winning streak.
Oh, 100%. I would take full responsibility.
Yeah. So,
oh, geez.
To Mr. Oulahan and Mr. Dennis and all the boys on the battalion, we're sorry. Yeah, we're deeply and terribly sorry. We won't be doing that again. But hey, it looked pretty good in Sudbury.
I mean, hey, you can do worse.
Yeah, it was definitely not the weekend, and Ryan said that after the game and against Sudbury, it wasn't the weekend that they had hoped up until that point. Obviously, with Niagara and then really kind of getting beat in by Hamilton.
Yeah.
That game against Sudbury was definitely well worth the trip to Sudbury, and it was fun to watch. And it was funny because Sudbury pulled their goalie at like the 8-minute mark of the third period, and that was like all of a sudden they started playing better. And it took like the battalion like 4 minutes to get their empty net goal.
Which is pretty impressive on Sudbury's end, if I may say.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, when's the last time you ever saw a goalie pulled at the 8-minute mark of the third period? Like,
Jesus, I have no idea.
Like, I remember when Patrick Waugh was like pulling them in Colorado at like the 5-minute mark, and people were losing their minds. Be like, "Whoa, 5 minutes!
What black magic is this?"
Yeah, but meanwhile, here goes Sudbury being like, "Well, how about 8 minutes?" So, also, it's one thing we talked about it with Ty a little bit, but one thing they also added to the Wolf is a fog machine. So,
good.
Yeah,
so it needs fog.
Yeah, I guess really make those red, cringy, glowing eyes pop. But the first time that they scored, the Wolf didn't really go out, so the fog just kind of like went out, and the Wolf like made the howling noise, and then it didn't go out on the wire, and then all of a sudden, just before play, it started to go. It was almost as if somebody was actually like pushing it on the wire, and then like play started. They were like, "Oh nope, pull it back." But then when the second one came out, the Wolf went out before the fog machine did. It started, so the Wolf had gone out, so it just kind of looked like the Wolf had passed some gas.
I can totally picture it too.
So I'm never going to be allowed back in the Sudbury Community Arena ever.
You had a good run.
I did. Also, while I'm damning myself, so Ben Long made the trip with me. It was his first time ever in attendance at the Sudbury Community Arena. And during the intermission, so I always forget every time I'm in there that the Zamboni doesn't come out of the end of the rink, it comes out of the middle of the rink.
Yeah.
And we're watching this happen. I'm like, oh yeah. And the Zamboni driver like did like a Z pattern on the ice instead of like continually going around in like the same area. He was like, I'm gonna go this way, then I'm gonna go the other way. But anyway, so Ben's sitting next to me. He's like, man, this is a joke of an arena. And I'm like, whoa. Personally, I like the rink. Personally, I like it. I like going there because it's the only time I get to actually be a fan type of thing. But whoa, them fighting words there, Mr. Long.
Yeah, he's never allowed back.
No, he definitely isn't. So he was pretty happy though that Wacky Wings was right across the parking lot from it though. So after the game, I'll tell you that much for free.
I'm sure that is well, you and I did that, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, didn't we? Wacky, and then we went to the game.
Yep. That's well, that's the nice thing about it is that they do have restaurants right there at the game because the rink is in a great location, 100%. It's just it's past its best before date for sure.
Oh, without a doubt. But
yeah,
this is not the Sudbury Wolves Let's Hate podcast.
Well, last thing I'll say about it is I said to him, I said, do you want to go up into the media booth? And he said, not really, but we did it anyways. And so we didn't have any equipment. We just went up there as ourselves and all that stuff. And coming down, he says, yep, I never want to do that ever again. And that was without equipment.
Imagine if he was carrying all his stuff. I hear you.
Yep.
Done that too many times in my day.
Yep, that's a fun. And they're back there in a weekend from now or something with 2 straight away games. So
oh geez.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Which they're playing the well. I mean, I feel like this is, if you mentioned this isn't the Hate the Sudbury Wolves podcast, but I feel like if there is one to do it with, it's because they play the Wolves tomorrow, Thursday. That's a good excuse. But anyways, we have other subjects to tackle here, Tom.
Let's talk about first of all, the upcoming games. We got the Wolves coming up. That's tomorrow, and then on Sunday is the Cogeco game at 2:00 against the Kingston Frontenacs. Hey, you have a chance to win a pretty awesome jersey too. If you go to that game, go visit the booth, learn about Cogeco. If you're watching this on Cogeco, that's one of the perks of having it.
Absolutely.
If you don't have Cogeco, this is one of the perks of having it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So go check that out. That's Sunday, 2:00 against the Kingston Frontenacs.
Plus, you get to see Shane Wright again, which is, that in itself is quite the draw. If you're not in, like, the battalion themselves should be a draw at this point because they're one of the best teams in the league. But Shane Wright is still, pretty special alone to see, which is pretty great. So good for, and also Lucas Edmonds, the North Bay product, coming back as well. He was there a couple of weeks ago with the Fronts, so he's a good enough reason to go see it. And not many people got to see him, only 500 fans at the time. So it's full capacity. Come on out to the Gardens, see the troops, see Shane Wright.
Now you can pack them in.
Yeah.
Okay. We've gotten some of that fun stuff out of the way. More serious tone, actually, from us anyway. The CHL import draft is getting postponed or rethunk anyway, just because of what's going on in Ukraine with Russia. And Adam Dennis was actually asked about that in a media scrum. If you're listening to this at any time, it was on a Wednesday, which is when they typically do it. And as always, they stood ground with the league on it, which is what they should do. But he also reassured it doesn't make anything awkward in the dressing room with the team, because there's Belarusian, Ukrainian, and Russians on that team. And from what I understand, everybody seems to be doing pretty okay. I mean, we're not going to dive too deep into it because it's not the place. Yeah. But when it comes to the import draft, I understand why there might be some hesitation to include Russian, Belarusian players. It's not because they don't like them. It's to get them to stop fighting.
Yeah, it's kind of at this point, anyone who's able to kind of put pressure on the situation to make it kind of resolve as quickly as possible. That's the way people are looking at it. That said, and I understand it. It's just really unfortunate that the actions of a few are creating consequences for so many. Not to take away the horrors that are happening in Ukraine right now, but it's just unfortunate that these kids don't really get the chance because of something that they don't control.
Exactly.
It's like COVID was COVID, and it sucked, but at least Petrov's here now, and at least Lukin's here now. They're getting their chance, but it's just unfortunate to see that. And even I think the World Juniors is up in the air right now with the Russian team, which is unfortunate, especially with something that's happening in August. I mean, I would imagine if this was to end in a week from now, all this goes away.
Oh, so yeah. I think that's a moot point. Hopefully it gets resolved fast and everybody stays as safe as they humanly can.
Yeah.
That's all I want to see out of this. I just want people to be happy and safe again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, it's just horrible no matter what way you slice it.
Yeah.
No matter, and it shouldn't be about sides anymore. It should just be about freedom at this point. Like, somebody's freedom is being threatened. And again, we're not going to get into it too deep, but no matter where you sit on the spectrum of this whole entire conflict, it's awful.
100%. There's just no good way of talking about it. It's a tough one to talk about.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to solve it. Hopefully, as we come together, we all can in some way, shape, or form, but that's where it sits.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully, and there's some great talented, there's great talented people everywhere, but Russia's quite the hockey factory. So when it comes to the OHL and the CHL, I mean, look at the battalion. There's 3 talented kids on that team right now that are, from the area. Two of them through the import draft. Tarasevic, who we had on last week, through coming to North America himself. It's quite the breeding ground for hockey, and it's on a talent level, it's unfortunate, and on a personal level, it's unfortunate.
100%. I literally don't know what else I can add to that. It was very well said.
I'm not usually good at that, but I'll take credit where credit's due.
Please do.
I will. But anyways, let's change the subject to something that's at least something better than talking about the horrors of Western Europe right now.
Anything. But yes. You know what? I want to talk real quick. I think we mentioned it a couple of episodes ago, but Kyle Mcdonald, how good has he been? What an under the radar pickup that's worked out so well so far.
Yeah, he's wow. That's really the best. That's the only way I can describe it is wow. Actually, we were talking about earlier with Ty when they were in Sudbury, the lady saying Mr. Goodrow and asking me questions. She asked if Kyle McDonald's the best player on the battalion right now, or like on the battalion. And I was like, I mean, there's a lot of great players on the battalion, but he's been playing out of his mind. Like,
yep.
You kind of at this point in the season expect it from Coe, from Petrov, from Jackson, from Russell, from Nelly, all these guys that have been carrying the load for the team. You expect it, but here's a guy that I'm sure a lot of battalion fans didn't know existed until the trade. And he comes from Windsor. He's like the second highest scorer on Windsor at the time of the trade. Not to take away from Grayson Ladd at all, being a great veteran presence as well. Not maybe, the podcast had something to do about it because he comes on the podcast and then goes on a tear. I mean, we affected the team negatively last week, but we've affected them pretty positively when it comes to that.
I'll take anything at this point.
Yeah, exactly. But he's been absolutely lights out, and just the depth scoring that they needed, because they were desperate for it for a while. And I firmly believe there's a lot of things that have to go right for a 9-game winning streak, and Kyle McDonald was one of the driving forces for sure.
100%. He's a big anchor on the second line right now, or the first. I don't know. I love it when you have a tough time picking out the first and second lines.
Yes, absolutely.
It makes life a lot easier for the coaches. Makes life a hell of a thing for the opposite coach, because then you go, well, who my top guy is going to take?
Yeah,
and that's spectacular. Plus his shot, I have never seen it live, unfortunately, but like watching replays, watching videos, it looks so heavy. Like it just looks like there's so much behind it. Yeah,
I definitely am glad that I'm not a goaltender staying in net. When Kyle McDonald's on the ice, I'm glad I'm not a goaltender in general. But especially when he's out there. I mean, there was one of the things when he first came here, he scored an empty netter from center ice, and it came while he was being surrounded by a lot of opposition players, and that shot from center ice was a laser beam from center ice.
Went through the net.
I'm not saying he's Shea Weber at the Olympics, but I'm saying he's Shea Weber at the Olympics.
Like, it's just there's a couple of wrist shots that are like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we're going to pivot because we're singing the praises of Kyle McDonald. But have you noticed, like, every goal Dallin Wakely scores is at the most ridiculous angle, or the shot has like this much room to get perfect, and he gets it in this much room? I mean, didn't he score one just not long ago where it was like he had like an inch to shoot at?
Yeah, he scored a shorthanded goal. I want to say it wasn't. The games are starting to blend together, so I can't remember if it was against the Wolves or not. But he scored against the Wolves on Sunday in Sudbury too, from like beside the net. Like, yeah. Okay, thanks. Like, like guys lethal anywhere on the ice, and if he's having a great rookie year, and a lot of this crop of rookies right now are having a great rookie year. But can you imagine how good someone like a Wakely's going to be in a year or two?
It's scary. And Van Steensel's really coming on too.
Yeah. Podolou, he's going to be scary too.
Yep.
Like all those guys from that 2020 draft class, Mathurin's been fantastic. Nelson's been fantastic.
Yep.
Van Steensel, Potaloo, Wakely. They've all been great to the point that you're like, you hear of, especially, I hate to talk about baseball right now because of everything that's going on in that situation, but you hear the Blue Jays always talk about, oh, we want to build a sustainable winner. We want to build a sustainable winner, blah, blah, blah. In the OHL, that's unheard of unless you're the London Knights. Usually you have 1 or 2 bad years and then you're back up to the top. When you have this kind of group that's coming up after the Coes leave, after the Petrovs leave, after the Jacksons leave, stuff like that, man, you're just going to, what's that? To me, that's a sustainable winner. Like
what an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, because
in such a good way.
Exactly. And that's not to say anything bad about the next group of guys on the cusp as well, like the Outwaters, the Seamas, and the Romanis, because through spurts they've looked fantastic as well. I mean, the time's just gonna, their time's gonna come. But right now, you look at these guys like Wakely and all these guys, you're just like, my God. And you know what? I also have to say, excuse me, I did play-by-play for Mr. Dawson on the U16 Trappers team last weekend. And Mason Ray, Scott Ray's son, is playing on that team. He scored 2 goals almost exactly the same, and they were both highlight reel caliber goals. Backhanded on the Timmins goaltender, and he had maybe about this much of the net to shoot it in, and it was a backhanded shot. And I'm like, this kid's going to be dangerous. But
I mean, again, this is how you build sustainable winners. You find kids who are extra special. You make sure they got everything they need to succeed.
Yep.
And they're doing that and then some. I mean, honestly.
Well,
what more do you want?
Exactly. And that's, man, it's so nice to talk about this type of thing. Like,
it's true.
It's
been
so
a long
nice.
Time.
It has been. Like, Tom, in your entire time covering the team, we've been over this before. It was rough. It wasn't the greatest.
Like, that's an understatement.
And that's not to take anything away from those players that played on those teams, because there were some talented players that played. It's just the first year missed the playoffs. Second year, when they sold off the farm, when it seemed like they were getting rid of Deneen and McKenzie stuff, all of a sudden they started playing great. Like, when they brought in Struthers, Jake Henderson, all those guys. But nothing like this. Nothing.
No,
like,
not even close.
It's just, again, I've said this before, but it's nice to see that we drank the Kool-Aid on this podcast so much over the COVID canceled season, but it's nice to know that, all right, we put our faith in this and we were singing the praises of these players sight unseen. And now that we've seen it, it's like, okay, cool. Everything worked out for the better.
I'm pretty sure at this point we're stirring the Kool-Aid. So
yeah, we're offering it up now.
We're just like, hey, give this a shot.
Yeah. And
if we're not part of the recruiting videos, we have not made it. We have not done something right. Is all I have to say.
Yeah, we'll need to like cut together like a highlight pack of the podcast, make it like
it's
look
a
really
super
cool.
pack.
Yeah,
a super
exactly.
cut.
And make it look super edgy and badass, and we'll have to be like, here's what you use for the recruiting. Look,
it's just like me in my basement.
I'm in a basement too, so it's all good. There's also those random videos of me in a hotel room in New Liskard that we could always cut to as well. So
there's a couple of me in the office in the back. There's some in the kitchen. There's some in the living room. Yeah, I'm just all over the place.
I don't even need to go to your house to get a tour anymore. I've got just doing the podcast.
Like, I mean, this is it. Now there's a lamp here.
Yeah, so we're slowly seeing the evolution of the basement. It's amazing. Sometimes there's Indy. Indy's not there today.
No Indy Poo today. He's firmly upstairs snuggling with the missus.
I mean, what better place to be, right? If you're Indy, so
it is truly his favorite.
Probably watching The Office if I know her.
Golden Girls.
Wow. Okay.
Every now and then we mix it up.
Yeah, that's fair. Every time I've ever been there, though, it's just been The Office. So The Office or Kim's Convenience.
Or we played Nintendo 64 till like 3 a.m.
Yeah, that too. And then I get up the next day and stay in the bedroom, not realizing that you're out in the living room playing the N64, because I'm like, I don't want to get out there and like wake up Tom or something, but he's already out there playing Pokemon Stadium.
Well, that's when you had it and I didn't, I think.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to
true.
sneak out like it's Christmas morn and play it while he's sleeping.
I was up at like 8:30 that morning, and I was like, "Oh, I don't think Tom's up yet." And then I didn't come out of the room till like 11.
7.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't come out of the room till like 11, thinking that okay, maybe it's safe to come out now. And then you were already out there playing Pokemon. You're like, "Yeah, I beat this guy, this guy, this guy."
I was already into it.
Yeah,
Already there.
yeah. No, that's fair. But anyways, we've gotten off topic pretty hard. But I will say one thing. Next week I'll have a review of the Batman for you because I'm gonna go see it this weekend, so I'm pretty excited.
Son of a bee sting. Please do.
Yes,
Please do. I'm
will.
looking forward to maybe seeing it, considering. Anyhow,
I feel like at this point I have to give a review because we've talked about it enough times.
yeah, you better. All right. Well, that's enough of me, and that's enough of us for tonight.
Yep, that's
We
fair.
had a good run.
Yeah, we're if you know we were starting to look like we were going to be part of the recruiting video, and then this episode happened.
Oh, that's classic. That's on my resume. Hey, you want something to do this? Call me. All right.
Yeah,
This has been
nosedive.
another exciting episode of the Frontline podcast. If you're watching it on your TV, hey, Kojiko game this Sunday, check it out. You can watch us there on your TV. But if you are watching it there, the full episodes you can see on YouTube, or you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, the whole 9 yards. Imagine there was 9 places to find us. That'd be cool. But as always, thank you to everybody who produces this particular podcast. Ben Sargent, Ben Long, who produces our game days. Look forward to the game day broadcasts again with full capacity, or at least whoever decides to show up at the games this weekend. Make it loud, make it proud, North Bay. I know you can. And be following us on social media and the battalion too. That's how you get all our news. And hey, that's how we get most of ours. All right. He's Kortney Kenny. Our guest today was Ty Nelson, who we thank again. And I'm Tom Parisi, and this was fun. And I'll consider maybe possibly doing it again sometime.